I am back getting the opportunity for a second time to talk with Jim Valentino. Jim, thank you for may I call you Jim? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's what my mom calls me.
Okay, all right. All right. Good company. Good company. So thanks for coming back, Jim, and thanks for talking with me. I know that you were on the Comic Obsessive with my friend Adam and I, or is that and me? I think that's and me, even though that doesn't sound right. And we were talking a lot about Guardians of the Galaxy, Shadowhawk, and some other pieces. And so I wanted to invite you to this space, Words, Images, and Worlds, to talk a little bit about comics and literacy and all of
Sure.
the things. So I appreciate that. Appreciate your time. And by means of an opening question, curious about the moment that you decided comics were for you and they were the space that you wanted to create and sort of live your professional life in.
When I was two,
Yeah, yeah. Started
and
early.
that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was it. My mom said she used to find me sitting in the dark hallway,
Mm-hmm.
and she would ask if I had nightmares, and I said no. It's just easier to see the pictures.
Nice. Yeah. A reader from a young age.
Yeah, my dad. I started drawing from television and various things.
Hmm.
My father, who was in World War II and he read comics in World War II, he noticed I had a very linear style,
Yeah.
um, very cartoony, very comic booky.
Uh,
So he brought home comics for me, and I started reading pretty much immediately. It was like what people call a religious experience. That's what it was for me.
wow. Yeah. Yeah. And I,
Yeah.
I love that family connection too. And how cool of your dad to notice your storytelling and your style and to go, oh, these are for you. Check these out.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that you mentioned the last time we talked was that, and I might be getting this slightly wrong, so please correct me if I do, but comics were sort of a way into reading for you as well.
I
Um,
started reading because of comics. It wasn't a way
exactly.
in. I mean, it was, that was it.
It was the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Sound like
curious.
a Mandalorian.
That's right. It is the way, comics. Uh, Curious about because backstory is I'm an English teacher. I've been a literacy professor, and so I use comics, preach about their quality, share about them, all the things. So my answer to this is, of course, biased, but curious about the role that you see comics playing in literature and reading for people.
Oh God. Comics are a gateway drug.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's all there is to it. For me, and I think probably you'll find for most comic book readers, is they open up mythology, which
Hmm.
opens up ancient history, which opens up archaeology, which opens up astronomy, which opens up everything
Hmm.
virtually.
Hmm.
And because comics are so tied into this, and I see over the last several years with the Marvel especially, but they're introducing citizens, non-comic book people, to the idea of a multiverse.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, we grew up with multiverses. We know exactly what they are. They don't confuse us in any way, shape, or form. We've been doing them for since I was a little kid.
Hmm.
Certainly, and I know before that in science fiction. Comics opens up reading for pleasure.
Yeah.
And when you can teach a kid to read for pleasure, they won't stop ever.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Love it. Love it. There's just something that grabs and something that grips a reader with comics. I completely agree. Um, so from the vantage then of taking your writing, reading, and all of these things that you were learning from comics to the office space. One of the things that we also talked about last time was some of the people along the way who you'd sort of discovered and encouraged. Robert Kirkman being one of those. It's just, some of the small names in comics, just the guy that did The Walking Dead. So, so curious about what you keep in mind in your role of editing or collaborating, especially when you're working with new talent that maybe is new to the profession and green, so to speak.
It for me, well, I could just I think the newest talent I've worked with would be Nick Marikovic and Fred Kennedy, who did Dead Romans for me,
Mhm, mhm,
which just came out in hardcover. Actually, it's coming out next week in hardcover. And I recommend it strongly. It's a beautiful book.
mhm,
What I've talked about mostly with them is more business related, setting your sights, where your expectations, making them realistic.
mhm, mhm,
And, be leery of people who promise you the moon because they probably don't own it. Chances are good,
mhm, mhm,
so it's stuff like that, I think, more than anything, deadlines, why they're there, don't overreach. Um, Fred was paying for a lot of the stuff that was going on with the book, and I said, don't overreach, you know, don't think that your book is going to be, the best thing since sliced bread. It probably isn't. It's not
mhm,
going to be the next Walking Dead. If it is, great,
mhm.
but don't count on that. Be keep your expectations realistic, which a lot of people don't want to hear, but nonetheless, it's I speak from experience there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the number of times that I read, oh, this property is coming to some station, something. I'll follow, IMDb, and I'll get
Mhm.
really excited about something, and the year passes, and then another year passes, and some of those things were 10 years ago now that I remember thinking, hey, wasn't that going to be a movie or a series?
It can absolutely break your heart.
Yeah.
Last year, a good friend of mine, Matt Wagner, they had actually filmed, um, and then they killed it. You know,
Wow.
and it was Grendel. They filmed it and then they killed it before they put it up on Netflix. Um, so the thing is, what I always say is don't believe it until you're actually watching it, and even then be suspicious.
Right, right.
It's just you know, if it happens, great, God bless, good, wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't happen very often, and when it does happen, it doesn't mean that you're automatically rich.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's another thing to keep in mind. It's lots and lots and lots of comics that have become TV shows or movies or whatever, and that's it. They fall off the face of the earth,
Hmm. Yeah.
unfortunately. Walking Dead was unusual on pretty much every level.
Yeah. Yeah. And now I really want to see that footage from Grendel.
Me too.
Like, who's the
Me
crazy
too.
person that killed that footage?
I don't
But
know.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know, but Matt was really upset. Maybe I should hit him up now and say, Matt, I want to see that.
yeah,
He was too upset last year to deal with it.
yeah. I just talked with him and Kelly Jones about their new book, which looks amazing. Speaking of Matt, um, the Dracula Impaler.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh no,
Uh,
you're good. You're good. It's fine.
uh, yeah, Matt's a great guy. He's a fabulous guy. Brilliant writer, brilliant artist, and just a great guy all the way around.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully some executive somewhere gets wise, and I'll just put this out into the universe, and maybe they'll find that and go, "Hey, who's the guy that put this in the can?" and pull it back out. That would be great.
That would be great. That would be great.
Yeah. Um, So speaking of characters that I would love to see on film, and I bet there have been a couple of takes on this. Last time we talked, we also talked about Shadowhawk, who was one of the big characters that I loved. The first time I saw the design of the character, I fell in love with it. Um, so curious about, since we kind of talked about that last time, and you probably talked about it a good bit, other gems, some of those other pieces from your career that you would point to and say, this was a mile marker for me. This was uh, a moment that I look back on and with great fondness.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they're but almost nothing that I've ever done, particularly the things that I love, I want to have made TV shows or movies or anything like that of.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I've been pitched. I mean, Normal Man has gotten pitched. I don't know how many times, and every single time I just looked at them like they're crazy. And that's it. That's what you've got, really.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
uh, yeah. Um, but the ones I look back fondly on, um, well, Normal Man,
Hmm.
of course. Um, the autobiographical stuff that I did,
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy. I loved working on Guardians of the Galaxy. Uh, I'm sure there's something else that I'm forgetting, but there you go. I'm forgetting it.
You have quite an impressive range of work, so uh, it it makes sense that you would have to revisit a little bit.
I always tried to do something different. I tried every project to be different from the last project,
Hmm.
which isn't a good idea if you're trying to grow an audience. But I get bored easily, so there you go.
Well, I appreciate that on the reading side too, though. I appreciate getting a different take and something that is unique each time I pick up a book as well.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the common themes of folks that come on this show is they've created widely.
yeah,
So I appreciate that.
yeah, yeah. You almost have to because I know there are some people that just stick with one character, and that's
Hmm.
cool too. That's perfectly acceptable. It's just not me.
Yeah.
I could never do that. Um, but to those who can, I mean, and some of them have created great characters as a direct result. You know,
Yeah.
I'm thinking here of Calvin and Hobbes, which I was just looking at earlier today.
Hmm.
Um, as one great example. But then there's Cerebus. There's tons of characters like that.
Hmm.
And then, like talking about our friend Matt, he's got a couple of characters that he keeps on returning to. So that's pretty cool.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing I appreciate about the way comics work is regardless of the kind of story that you're telling, you can still look at it and go, that's Jim Valentino or that's Matt Wagner. There's still that part of you that comes through either in the art style or something in the beat of the storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's because, we all speak with the singular voice,
Hmm.
no matter what, regardless what we're talking about, we speak with a singular voice. So, artists tend to do that as well.
Yeah.
Most artists try to disguise it, but it still comes through.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say that what would be the motif for you, the thing that probably comes through um, across your work?
Oh God, I have no idea. No, I'll let someone else deal with that. Yeah, I
Let the
have no
literary
clue.
critics deal with it.
Yeah, okay. The only thing I would say is it's awful. Other than that, um, when a book would come out, uh, well, Rob Liefeld and I shared a studio off and on for a number of years, right?
Mhm.
And when we knew that one of our books was going to be released, the other would go in and grab the book, like I'd walk past the counter for Rob, and they just let me walk out.
Uh-huh.
And then we'd sit in the car and go through it page by page, whose ever book it was, yelling and screaming and, pulling our hair out. And then once we got that out of the way, we'd walk into the store. Oh, it's great. you know. But my wife used to get mad at me because when a book would come out, I'd put it on the nightstand and look at it for about a week and just be depressed, just completely and totally depressed. And she'd be like, why? And I would say, because all I can see is every mistake,
Oh yeah.
everything that I did wrong, everything I reached for but didn't quite grasp. That's all I see. I
Mm.
don't see any of any of the good stuff. It's all horrible. So so when people criticize me as being, not a great creator, I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, I can, yeah, all right.
Well, there's always somebody out there that's ready to try to pull somebody else down, I'm sure. But uh,
Oh yeah.
I have the same thing when I write something, and the thing with writing is you have to reread it for the editing. But I look back at it, and all I see are the things that I would fix or improve or expand. It's that inner perfectionist. It's a killer.
It's it's the design. You should feel that way.
Yeah, yeah.
You should feel that way because you'll never improve if you don't feel that way.
Mhm,
You'll
mhm.
never get better. Um, and so you should always feel that way. You should always look at it with a jaundiced eye. I could
Yeah.
have done that better. I could have done this better. I remember a conversation I had with Alan Moore, and he said that his greatest fear was that people would find out he had no clue what he was doing.
Mm, mhm. The imposter syndrome.
Yeah. And I said, that's healthy. That's really a healthy attitude to take.
Yeah.
I've met people that are thrilled with themselves.
I was about to say the opposite of that would be someone who looks at their work and goes, "Ah, it's awesome. It's awesome."
And I'm incredible. I'm the best there is. It's like, no, you're not. Shut up.
That's right.
But,
Yeah.
and the guys who are truly great, at least the ones that I've met, uh, you, many, many, many years ago when I smoked, um, I was on smoking rounds with this guy. I was up in Oakland at the old WonderCon, and we had the same. What do you call it? Every 45 minutes, we'd go out for a cigarette.
Hmm.
We were both pretty heavy smokers. And I got to talking to this guy. And I had no clue who he was. Really, really liked him, liked talking to him. He was funny. He was smart. Um, he was not very reverent about what was going on. Um, and then one time I went out and somebody, I guess, who had noticed that we were talking together said, "Where's Bernie?" Bernie who? Bernie Wrightson, the guy you'd been talking to. That's Bernie Wrightson?
Oh
Oh my
wow.
God.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't know because I would have been starstruck. Um,
Right.
uh, but as it turned out, he became a friend and just one of the greatest guys you could have possibly ever met.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, you know, that's my experience. Most of the guys that are really great,
Hmm.
they don't have, they know they're good. They don't need to flaunt it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a gift. That is definitely a gift. Yeah. Any other folks you would shout out as being particularly positive interactions before we get to the final question?
Most. Walter
Yeah,
Simonson, what a great guy.
truly. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Neil Gaiman.
Hmm.
And a great story about Neil. This friend of mine, Tata Kiaka, he had this buddy named Arnold. Arnold, um, he cut trailers, right, that you see for movies, right? That's what he
Hmm.
did. He
Hmm.
edited trailers. He wanted to come to Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con. So Todd asked if I could get him in. Sure. Get him in on a Saturday. So he, like most people who go to Comic-Con for the very first time, um, wanted to go to the Eisner Awards, thinking it's some great thing.
Mhm.
And cynical me, I'm like, no, it's like being bored to death in slow motion. You really don't want to do that. But he did. He wanted to. So we're walking back from the award ceremony. And I said, so, did you see everything you wanted to see and do everything you wanted to do? And he said, almost. And I said, what'd you miss? And he said, well, Neil Gaiman was doing a reading. And I really wanted to meet him, shake his hand, and, but couldn't get into the room. It was standing room only. There were guards at the door. No one was being let in, blah, blah, blah. And you want to meet him, huh? Yeah. What he didn't know is that Neil was walking 30 feet in front of us. So I yell out, Neil. And Neil turns around and goes, Jim. And Arnold, 6'4", something like that. I'm 5'4". He looked down at me and goes, you have got to be shitting me. Well, you said you wanted to meet him. So I make the introductions, and Neil, being as gracious as he is, just walked with Arnold and talked with him,
Oh yeah, yeah.
which, Arnold just, we'll never forget it, because somebody that he really wanted to meet and really looked up to was extremely gracious and nice and polite. So, but I find more people are like that than not
Wonderful.
in the comic book world.
Hmm.
That the jerks are few and far between, and everyone knows who they are.
Yeah, yeah. Well, nice to shout out the people that are kind. Love that. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Uh,
and most of them are.
nice to know that Neil Gaiman is as warm as his accent suggests. His wonderful voice. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he's very nice. Yeah,
So my final question, I promised you a short talk, and that is you're talking about Dead Romans and the work you're doing in um, working with new talent and working with folks. I'm curious about either by means of that or anything else, things that you're thinking about creatively right now. What has your attention creatively in comics or otherwise?
I'm this year is my last year doing um comic books, uh
Hmm.
floppies, whatever you want to call them, monthlies, periodicals, whatever. um I'm just getting too old, and it's getting too hard to keep track of it, to keep track of books as they go through the process.
Hmm.
So I'm going to be um, concentrate. I mean, I just had a birthday last weekend, I think,
Hmm.
and I turned 750 and a half. And it was,
And
it's
many
like,
more, may I say,
yeah,
many.
yeah. And so it's a little, so what I'm concentrating on for next year, for 2024, is I'm just going to do big projects
Yeah.
that will take about 6 months or more to piece together. So the first of those is I'm releasing a Normal Man omnibus in January.
Lovely.
Now, Normal Man number one came out in January 1984, and that's 40 years now, right? And
Mhm.
that's also the same month that my first son came out.
Oh, wow.
So it's like a double anniversary for me.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
the book is dedicated to Aaron because I'm a proud dad.
Yeah.
So beyond that, and we don't have a release date yet, we will be doing an omnibus of Von Bodie's Dead Bone Erotica, which will be a big, full hardcover, oversized hardcover. I'm working closely with Mark Bodie on it. Von Bodie was a very, very big influence on me.
mhm,
Due to my age, I came up through the very first Marvel Age and DC Silver Age. That happened when I was around 10. When I was around 20, came the Undergrounds.
mhm,
So for me, it's like, and I'm equally influenced by Jack Kirby and Robert Crumb and Steve Ditko and Vaughn Bodie and, a whole bunch in between there. So producing this book is really like a dream come true for me. So that's one of the things that we're doing. I'll also be working with Nick Marakovich on a brand new project of his, which will
wonderful.
release as an original graphic novel. Again, I don't have dates for these things. We're just kind of as they come, working on them slowly. And that's okay with me, doing one or two projects and making sure that they're really nice. That's important. In between, there's a Rat Queens omnibus coming.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
and and I just received from Marvel, they just released a What If omnibus, which has 9 of my 10 what ifs in it, which was very nice and nice of them to send it to me.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. The
So that's what I'm
legacy lives
looking
on.
forward to. Huh?
I said the
I think,
legacy lives on.
yeah, it's kind of nice. It's sort of, it's nice. We'll see if so for me, things are kind of coming full circle. And that's that's a good thing.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of other projects I would love to do, but I don't want to say anything until I know that we can do them. Because nothing kills a project more than talking it to death, and then it
Hmm.
never happens, you know.
Right.
Um, but there's lots of people that I really like and would like to present, and due to my position at Image, I have the ability to do that.
Hmm.
So that's a very good thing, for me. Um, I may take a step back creatively, but not really because I'm able to present these projects that I think are worth presenting.
Yeah. That's wonderful and wonderful that you are. Well, it certainly doesn't sound like you're taking a step back in any way. It sounds like the creative fires are churning still.
Just slowing down a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Just no more roller skating down the halls or anything.
Yeah.
Just slowing it down a little, which is fine. With me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me again and looking forward to seeing the work that is to come as you're working with talent and presenting the works that you're talking about. And yeah, I greatly appreciate it. Did we miss anything that you want to make sure to mention?
No, not that I know
All
of.
right. I'm glad
No,
we could make the
I
time work
just
as
sort of
well.
flow with these things. I've done a whole bunch of them, so I just
Oh,
sort of,
yes.
whatever you want. It's like, you want to talk about Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane's engagement, we can talk about that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Yeah, nice, nice. Yeah. Well, I know that I can't remember exactly how old you said you turned last week, but I'm sure you've done at least that many podcasts and interviews and things
71,
within. Yep, yeah. Um,
71. Yeah.
yeah.
I thought it would take a lot longer to get here.
That's what I've heard. That is what I've heard. But it sounds like it's been enjoyable so far and much more joy to come as well.
Yeah. 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 It's all swell.
This is good. This is good as
Yeah.
well as good. And I continue to enjoy the humor that you're putting out on social media as well. I'll go ahead and say that before we close. You're a great joy to follow along and uh, to kind of see the perception of the world that you share out there as well.
Yeah. And yeah, I just like to share things that either make me laugh or make me think or that I agree with or whatever.
Hmm.
The one thing I don't do is argue with people.
It's pointless, right? It's
It's
yeah.
just pointless, So those people, and it always seems that the people who want to argue with you are the people who just sort of fly by your page.
Mhm.
They don't
Mhm.
really contribute anything. They just come on the page, make some sort of nasty comment, and then split, you know,
Yeah.
um, and trolls. So I get rid of them as soon as they rear their ugly little heads. But it's just not something I want to do. It should be more positive. You should, you don't have to just, you don't have to agree with everything that someone says. But something that really bothers me is when people go online and argue with someone over
Mhm.
something they like. You
Mhm.
know, it's not about you, it's about them. They like it. Shut up.
Mhm.
You know, your opinion is not necessary. It wasn't required. It wasn't asked for. Let them have their say. You don't have to agree with them.
Mhm.
Just accept the fact that this is what they like. This is what they want, whether it's an artist or whatever. You know,
Yeah.
um, you know. I used to shop in this store where the kid behind the counter would put people down for their purchases. Oh, that book sucks. Oh, that art sucks. And
Mhm.
I called the owner aside one day and just said, "This is very uncool." At the time, the new Beatles CDs had just come out.
Mhm.
And I said, "I buy the Beatles CDs from a young lady with green hair and enough metal in her face to make a small appliance.
Mhm.
And she wouldn't listen to those CDs if it meant the firing squad. But she doesn't say anything to me about it because
Yeah.
I'm the customer." I said, "And your store, this guy is telling people what they like is not okay. That's not okay. Not under any circumstances is that okay. It's perfectly fine for you to like what you like."
Mhm.
I'll just
Agreed.
leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that intelligence and kindness go together, and it is so often one of the most brilliant people that I ever met had two doctorates, one in history and one in theology. And he would always say, if someone wants to talk with me, I'm fine with that. I'll listen to anybody, but I will not argue. There's no point in arguing something, but I will listen.
Life's too short, and so am I. So there
Yep,
you
yep.
go.
Same here. Same
Yeah.
here. Absolutely. Well, wonderful talking with you as always. I always enjoy your insights, and glad to have you back at some point, but also wishing you well on the journey and looking forward to the work to come.
Okay. All right. Talk to you later.